Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hope Discovered podcast. My name is Bill. If this is your first time here, what we do here is we talk about the community of recovery. Here at CommQuest, we have three pillars, those being addiction recovery, mental health, and social outreach. A lot of times we have people on the program who share a personal journey of some type of recovery. Other times we have people on the program who are professionals in the field. And today is just that. Our guest today is Tom Jones, who is the counselor at CommQuest's Alliance Outpatient location. Welcome to the program, Tom. So it's great to have you here.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here, and I'm very happy to be able to do this podcast with you today.
Awesome. Tom is with us today to talk about gambling addiction. In recent years, gambling has become easier than ever. We no longer have to travel to Las Vegas or Atlantic City to visit a casino. And other types of betting are readily available right in the palm of your hand. Similar to alcohol use, recreational gambling is manageable for many people. For other individuals, just one taste of betting, so to speak, can take hold in the same part of the brain that other addictions are active within. So many apps now, sports betting, and all these other things. Has there been an impact at all with any of that?
Well, I think that one of those things that has impacted some of this stuff, and that's why I got into this whole field, was House Bill 29 that recently passed and legalized, and at the beginning of 2023 here, legalized sports betting. Mm-hmm. Before that, I noticed an uptick in people having issues with this type of disorder when we legalized having casinos in Ohio. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things that as people have more readily access to it, and that before then, the only way to really gamble was to go somewhere else where you're buying lottery tickets or something at your local convenience store. Now, it's readily available anywhere. There's tons of apps, and including tons of ads for apps now, trying to get more and more people engaged in this activity.
You know, me personally, I don't necessarily have an issue with legalizing vices as long as it's done properly. But I think one of the things that's oversold is that it's going to be an answer to some sort of an economic problem. Everybody wanted to be Las Vegas there for a while. And Las Vegas has a lot more going on than just casinos. You know, they've invested a whole culture, a whole economy into shows and big casinos and things like that. And just flipping a switch and having a magical cure there doesn't always work. That's kind of off topic, but it has affected people because of the fact that it is so readily available. You don't even have to leave the house. That's what's amazing to me now. It's right in your phone, right in the palm of your hand. You talked a little bit about what made you decide to get into this field. Are you from this area? What about your background kind of led you into counseling and the recovery medical field, so to speak?
Well, I grew up in Hartville.
Okay.
So I'm a Lake High School graduate. I went to Malone for my undergraduate and graduate degrees in counseling. Mm-hmm. And so at this point, I still live in the Stark County area. I've lived in this area my whole life. I love Stark County. I love this community. And what got me involved in it was actually my senior year. I got involved with helping someone come out about their own personal sexual trauma. And that kind of led me towards getting me into the counseling field. And then as I fell into the counseling field, started working with different people, I fell in love with the addictions. And watching everything unfold over the past several years, I just saw that it's going to be more and more of an issue as more and more ways become legalized to gamble, as well as how readily it's everywhere.
Yeah, it is. It is. How does gambling parallel other types of addiction?
I think one of the biggest ways that it parallels other types of addiction is that it plays in the same part of the brain, as you mentioned earlier. It plays in that reward center of the brain where that same reward center that says, hey, you know what? I had some delicious French fries. They're good. I'm going back there and getting some more of them.
Yeah.
So addiction plays on that same part of the brain that tells us that's good. But when it comes down to gambling, it's, ooh, I like this rush of that. And one of those things, it's not as much about getting the big win.
Yeah.
It's about the risk.
Yeah.
The addiction comes from making that gamble.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the win. Now everybody wants the win. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
Everybody's looking for that big payout, and that really pushes things. But gambling in general is designed to create you to want to keep coming back.
Yeah.
I remember I took a psychology class in high school. We went over the different types of rewards. Intermittent rewards, and it followed up with in college and everything else like that. But intermittent rewards are the strongest types of rewards. And that's exactly what gambling does, especially when you're looking at something like a slot machine. And the new slot machines are designed to make you feel like you're winning, even though you're losing. And so it's so much easier to get kind of caught up in that idea, oh, I'm winning, especially with all the bells and whistles and everything that's going on. Yeah. Some people can handle that. Some people get to the point to where it starts becoming a problem for them. Yeah,
the constant rewarding your senses, as you mentioned, the blinking lights, the sounds, other people ringing the machines all around you. It just sounds like it's a cash payout all the time. Mm-hmm. So that's very interesting. Is there anything about gambling that makes it unique? I'm going to guess here. I would say that the fact that you're not ingesting a substance, it seems like you're just engaging in an activity, which in and of and by itself can be perceived as harmless. You don't realize that you're actually stimulating yourself.
Correct. And it's one of those things that when you take in a substance, whether it's cocaine, heroin, meth, or anything else, alcohol, you're taking something in your body to alter it. When you do something that you like to do and something that brings you pleasure, something that makes you feel good, you're also altering your body, and you don't always understand the fact that as to what's going on.
Yeah.
But just like with those other addictions, it can physically alter your brain's makeup, like actually physically alter your neural connections.
Yeah.
And that's where the disease piece comes in, and that's where they kind of overlap. But in the way that it's different is the fact that you're not taking something into your body. You're not overly doing something like that. Mm-hmm. There's many, many people who are, we talk about the functioning alcoholic, the functioning addict, the functioning gambler goes to work every day, looks like things are pretty much good on the outside, but are constantly asking people for cash advances. They're always asking for people, can you help me cover this bill? Help me cover that bill. And that's where some of this stuff comes in, is it's like, well, why don't you just do it? Or what's going on that you're not able to get into, managing a life correctly? No, or are you just spending too much money and everything else? And then that builds upon itself to have all kinds of other issues.
Sure. I would imagine, just like with any other type of addiction, that denial is sometimes a problem. I'm just having a good time. You pay money to go on a vacation. I like to go to the casino and blow X amount of dollars. And what are some of the red flags at this point that, this may be an addiction as opposed to just recreation?
I think some of the big red flags that come up are when people start getting to the point to where they feel like they need to start betting more often and with larger amounts of money, and taking bigger risks and gambles to try to get a payout. Mm-hmm. And one of those things that a lot of people don't understand about it is the fact that when you are looking at some of those red flags, it comes down to, hey, you know what? I spent more money than I want to.
Yeah.
One of those things that you want to look at and look for is this idea that I need to go get back what I lost. We call that chasing their losses.
Yeah.
And so what will end up happening is they'll go in, they'll lose their money. Oh man, I just need like 10 more bucks, and then I'll hit it and I'll win it all back.
Right.
And so they go back the next day and they spend another $200-$300. And then they go back the next day. Maybe they only had $50, but they keep going back. And one of those other things that I would say is a red flag for a lot of people is that when you do win, you can't walk away. So at times, you walk in, oh, you know what? I just hit $100. I'm up $50 from when I walked in the door. Mm-hmm. Okay, I can be done. I can walk away.
Yeah.
That would be an indication that all right, I'm allowing myself to do it. But it's like, but if you're constantly getting, well, I only won $100. I really want to, if I win $500, then I'll walk away.
Yeah.
And so you put that $100 you just won back into the whole thing.
Yeah. Does gambling coincide? And I'm going to guess alcoholism is probably a good playmate for gambling. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Co-occurring disorders is big ones. A lot of times people who struggle with other addictions, chemical addictions, and in particular, alcohol is a big one, but other substances are just as bad for it. I've talked to many people who, as part of their addiction routine, is going gambling and going and doing this, buying scratch-off tickets. All right, well, I got $2 or $3 left. Let me buy a couple of scratch-off tickets to see if I can get a couple more dollars so that I can go buy more drugs and stuff. So it all kind of goes together. And then I think one of those other things we really need to watch out for is when people stop using substances, they all of a sudden now might be picking up another process addiction like gambling, shopping, or something else like that, because that's something that kind of goes right along with it. Because of the way that the brain is affected by it, it's playing in that same area of the brain that when they were doing heroin was getting rewarded. Now, if I put this money into the machine, all right, I'm getting this. Or, if I bet on this sports thing, and makes the game that much more interesting for me.
Yeah.
I have something riding on it. I have other things, and they get addicted to these emotions, these different types of things that they have that they're just gambling on.
Yeah. I've been out to Vegas a number of times, and I've never been a big gambler. I like the atmosphere that's out there. It's a 24-hour-a-day party. And when I was younger, it was fun to suntan at the pool, and then in the night go out and see shows and stuff. It was a lot of fun. It's impossible to notice, though, that drinks and all those things are readily available. I mean, they just almost give them to you in some cases because they want to remove your inhibitions, get you to loosen up. And it just seems like it's primed, like you say, to have a co-occurring condition there, because those two things can often just work together. And I can certainly understand why that is an issue. We here at CommQuest and all of our partner agencies, a lot of the nonprofits in the area have done a pretty good job, I believe, in raising awareness about mental health and about addiction. And I believe a lot of the stigma around that has gone away over the past few years because of agencies like ours. Gambling addiction is one of those things that, for one thing, you don't hear as much about it, and you don't hear a lot of talk about how to get help when you do have an issue, like you do with other things now. So if you're in this situation where yourself or maybe one of your loved ones is things are getting out of hand now, what is the best way to reach out for help?
Some of the best ways are to reach out to your local agencies. The Ohio Gambling Commission is one of those areas where you can reach out to. If you have a problem with gambling and a casino, there is the self-exclusion list to where you can literally go sign up and say, hey, you know what? I can't go on property at these places. Oh. And so you can go and sign up. You can sign up online to where you can keep yourself off of there. And one of the benefits of that is the fact that if you do show up there, they can then charge you with trespassing. And so that leads you to, okay, I don't want to go to the casino because if I show up at the casino, I might get charged with trespassing.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
With that, there's also, your 12-step help recovery groups. We have Gambling Anonymous. There are meetings in the area that people can do. You can always reach out for counseling for individualized help in that area. And there's other people in the area that also know how to handle, deal with, and treat this type of thing.
Yeah. Interesting. I mentioned stigma. And, stigma can be a problem with so many things. With mental health, people sometimes feel it's a weakness. With addiction, they don't want to be considered a quote-unquote addict, which is, of course, is a word that we stay away from in the treatment community. But it is a word that's used out in the common vernacular and certainly feeds stigma. Gambling is probably another one. No one wants to admit that they blew their paycheck. How does that work in people reaching out for help?
I think a lot of it comes down to this idea that I'm out there trying to have fun. I'm out there trying to do something. It's not a problem. that idea of, hey, oh, wait, I have a problem with this. I need to stop spending every paycheck I get before I get it, trying to get money to pay so that I can do what I need to do.
Yeah.
That stigma comes out of that people feel like they are not good enough. A lot of self-doubt, shame, guilt, all those types of things play into this stigma of it's, something that I shouldn't have to deal with. And it comes down to a lot of people look at it, go, well, just stop.
Yeah.
Just very much similar to that of with some of those old school mentalities of substance abuse.
Sure.
Is, hey, you know what? If you have problems gambling, don't gamble.
Don't gamble. Yeah.
If it was that easy, then I wouldn't have a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's one of those things that if it was that easy, it wouldn't be a problem for anybody.
Yeah.
But the problem is that because of the way that the brain works, because our body craves to do those good things over and over again, people feel like, well, I shouldn't feel this way. Why do I have this urge to want to go? Why am I constantly thinking about when I'm going to get to go to Vegas again? When am I going to get to go to one of the other casinos again? When am I going to get out of here? We're going to have enough money to go buy more lottery tickets.
Yeah.
And things like that.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of stigma around that. And I also think that there's a lot of stigma around what is gambling in general, because I think that when people think of gambling, they think of people buying lottery tickets. Mm-hmm. They think of people going to casinos. Now with this sports betting stuff, there's tons of different ads out there. I'm trying to play a mobile game, and every time an ad comes up, every other one or every one is for a different type of the same one over and over again of an online betting platform. Mm-hmm. And so, but there's other ones out there that a lot of people don't even realize are actually gambling. Mm-hmm. And as I was going through training and stuff for this, actually opened my eyes up and made me look at things a little different. Okay. Some of those things that you don't necessarily think of as gambling, and people who may be having problems with gambling, you got to think about, and they brought it up there, your church bingo night. Mm. A lot of people don't see, okay, I'm going to go hang out with some people. We're going to play some bingo. They don't see that as gambling, but it is, because you're buying or betting. The bet is buying the card for the bingo, and then the reward or the payout is winning shouting the pot bingo or whatever. Yeah, exactly. And those are the types of things that not a lot of people see. Yeah. Not only that, but gambling is built into a lot of our video games. Sure. Including paying real money for a chance to get something in a video game that has no value outside of that particular platform. Yeah. And some of those things are affecting our youth. You don't have to be 21 or 18 or 21 or something like that to go buy a loot crate in a video game to get a new armor or a new weapon or a new skin or something like that.
Interesting, yeah.
And so I think that's one of the other things that's very different about gambling addiction is that, and a lot of times kids are getting introduced to this without even knowing what it is. Yeah. I found it interesting that in my training, one of those things I learned is a very popular video game that came out when I was a kid was actually banned in other countries over in Europe until they changed the game up because it had gambling as a part of it. And it's one of those things that, for the most part, the game here in the United States was rated E. Thousands upon thousands, hundreds of thousands of kids would play this video game with gambling associated in it and as a part of it, but not necessarily know what it is. Yeah. And it's already starting and triggering some of that stuff. And today, with the way some of the video games are structured, I have to buy and pay for X, Y, and Z to be able to stay competitive, to stay up. Yeah. And they offer these things, for 99 cents, you can buy this and maybe you'll get this. Yeah. Or these are your options of things that might pop up, which that's a form of gambling that not a lot of people are seeing. Yeah. And not a lot of people understand that. And so it's like, okay, hey, you know what? Gambling is very much ingrained in our culture, whether people know it or not. And I think some of those things that we're going to see moving forward, and I've already seen it in some youth, is that, hey, you know what? I have to keep, all right, I didn't get what I wanted, so I'm going to spend another 99 cents. Yeah. $40, $50 later, they might get what they were looking for, or they might not have. And so they're spending money gambling, but not necessarily at a casino, not necessarily on a lottery ticket. And you don't have to be of age to get to these areas. And I think that's something that we need to be mindful of with our youth, as well as those things are playing into adults as well. And they start off with these little things. Well, it's not that big deal. It's 99 cents or it's 50 cents or it's whatever. Well, that starts. The next thing you know, you're buying more and more and more. And it's one of those things that people are spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars in a video game that they didn't have to pay to play with to begin with.
Exactly. Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned the reward system, the little rewards. Video games, until this conversation, really never hit my radar. A lot of people presume because I like computers and electronics and all that I'm a big gamer. I bet you got all the games. And actually, I never got the bug. When I was younger, after school, everybody went to play Pac-Man and all. I never got that bug. But I'll tell you what I have gotten bitten on is the social media bug. It's one of those things where you have to have an understanding of it in today's world. In marketing, for example, when we have a post out there, we want what's the engagement? How many likes did it get? And But it's the same reward system. It's the same thing. You're getting validation from your friends. You're getting validation that your content, whatever that may be, your new swimsuit or your new workout or your new car, everybody loves it. So it's almost like there's so many things now that feed into this reward system. You have social media, you have the gaming, and so many other things. Is that part of a pattern, in your opinion? Is that something that we have to be aware of when we engage with just about anything?
I think it is. I think it's something that we need to be mindful of, is that if we are going to continue to engage with certain activities and certain things, we need to be aware that they may lead us to having some other types of tendencies and stuff like that we didn't necessarily intend them to, which is another characteristic of addiction in general. I have yet to meet someone in my career that said, you know what, I decided I wanted to be an addict when I grow up.
Yeah.
Everybody started off with this or that. Nobody's like, all right, I'll dabble here, I'll dabble there. I'm not going to get hooked to it. Then they get hooked on it, and there it goes. And I think we need to be mindful of the same thing with this. All right, you know what? I liked playing the free slot machine games that they have out there. And so if I like that, well, what happens if I go to the casino? Yeah. It's kind of that breaking down almost systematically of people's guard towards spending money on something that doesn't have any guaranteed outcome.
Yeah.
Even our video games, like I think about going to an arcade here in town or over there. I think of, restaurants and stuff that have video games and stuff in them.
Right.
A lot of them are based around gambling, except instead of paying, hey, I'm going to give you $1 and I'm going to do this. I'm going to go buy a bunch of tokens, and then I'm going to go play this game and see how many points I can rack up to get tickets. Yeah. And then I'm going to exchange those tickets for prizes and items and your rewards.
Yeah.
And so even in the non-gambling area, there's a lot of gambling going on. Even, might be more skill-based than just random chance-based. But still, I'm wagering, I'm trying to get something, and I'm getting a reward for it. And that happened everywhere. And I think it's something that we need to be aware of, because I think more and more people are going to be becoming less and less desensitized to the dangers of this stuff because of this microcosm of gambling things that aren't necessarily, hey, I'm going to a casino, or hey, I got a bunch of scratch-off tickets, or, I'm not doing that. That reminds me of another thing I wanted to say back a little bit earlier, when it says that one of those things that we need to watch out for, when people start getting and ritualizing what they're doing. There are many people, and this got brought up and pointed out a lot with the bingo players. They will set up their little trinkets, their little items around them and stuff like that. And if they have all their little items all set up all just right, they're lucky and they'll win. And it's this false belief that, okay, well, if I do this, if I wear this tie to the casino, I'm going to walk away with money.
Yeah.
If I have this on, or if I do it this way, then it's going to work out in my favor. When a lot of, especially with a lot of this stuff, it's random chance.
Sure.
And even with some of the stuff, like when you go to like the arcades and stuff, that there might be skill involved, but there's still things there that make it much more random than what people realize.
Yes. Yes. And there's still those rewards that feed you into the next round so you can go even higher. Real interesting stuff. And I think one of the things that really stood out to me in this conversation that made me more aware is that it is the idea that I'm going to win big. It's the idea of I'm taking a risk. It's almost like a daredevil. It's that same thrill that you get from jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. It's that thrill. And it can become very, very addicting. So that's an excellent point about the process of gambling. To wrap things up, here again, gambling is one of those things that we don't speak as much about as we do other addictions, but it is a problem. And I'm glad we got a chance to talk about it because that's one of those things, because of the fact that it isn't spoken about as much as the other things. Sometimes people feel, well, it's not really a problem. But when we hear a conversation like this, we start to realize it is an issue. What message of hope would you have for someone, whether it be themselves or a family member who's caught in that cycle? And, they just need the right little voice to go off and say, okay, how low am I going to go? How low is the elevator going to go before I hit bottom? Can I get help now? What little push would you have?
My push would be get help sooner rather than later. And the fact that there is help out there. And there's people out there that's not going to judge you for the things that you have going on in your life. Just because you have troubles and problems and have made possibly poor decisions because of it. You may be stuck in financial problems because of what's been going on and what you've been spending the gambling on and stuff like that. There is hope out there. There are people out there that are willing to help. There are people out there that are willing to go through it. And I think one of the biggest things is you're not alone. You're not the only one out there who struggles with this. There are many, many people that struggle with these things, and they feel like they're alone. Please reach out for help. Please reach out to family, friends for guidance. Look, a simple search of getting help on Google is one of those things that can lead you to all kinds of different things. Look into the Ohio self-exclusion lists, which now include sports betting and other things like that, as well as used to be just casinos, but now it also includes, websites and things like that so that you can keep yourself on track. Finding accountability. There are things out there that you can do that'll help you get to where you want to be and meet the goals that you want to have. And you're not a bad person. Yeah. First and foremost, just because you have an addiction of any kind doesn't make you a bad person.
Absolutely.
And including just because you can't stop gambling doesn't mean you're not worthwhile. You don't have value. And you're not a mess up.
Excellent messages. And one of the things that we often say here at CommQuest is that recovery is possible. No matter how far down you may feel, no matter how hopeless, there is a path to recovery. It may not be the recovery that you imagined. It may not be some utopian future, but there is a better life that is available. And everyone who has gone on this journey has been in that state of hopelessness. And it's always important to remind them that a lot of people have gone on that journey and they found some type of a better life, and recovery is possible. So thank you so much, Tom, for what you do. You as a provider are the folks who are on the front line of making our community and the world a better place. And thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you, and thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. We've been talking to Tom Jones, who is a counselor at CommQuest Alliance Outpatient location. Now, for more information about CommQuest, I would direct you to CommQuest.org. Once again, that is CommQuest.org. Thank you very much for listening to our podcast today. My name is Bill, and until next time, have a great day. Thank you for listening.